Well, I'm here with Luke Griesser for our first ever, I guess, Happy Feet interview. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for, I mean, I guess throughout all the years I've been streaming, which has basically been like 2 now, like you, I guess, and a lot of other cubers like Luke Garrett and Morgan, have just been super open and receptive to it. I think there was like such an opportunity for you guys to be like, oh, I don't like all these cameras. I don't like all like all the, bright lights put on me basically and all the pressure. But I've been super happy how much like you guys been receptive to it.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure. I mean, if cubing is going to get to the point that like we want it to be as a spectator sport, I guess, like something like this was having to happen at some point. So we're just very open to the idea of it because it only creates new opportunities for us as well.
yeah, and I hope because like things like your U.S. Nationals where you had the moment, like everyone kind of knows that moment where it's like I know it, and it's like some of those things like does that like before a stream, how often is that going to be like as big of a moment if it's not part of the stream, and like 3,000 people watch it live? Like obviously it's probably still be like a pretty big meme and stuff, but it's like part of me was like I hope like okay that's you like launch a merch brand and stuff like that was in the Happy Feet group chats being like John, did you see that like Luke Reister like started a merch brand off our stream like that kind of stuff so
Yeah, there had been there's two moments like that in like major finals that come to mind. It was Nats 2014 with Kevin Hayes, and he had, I believe it was a J perm, and he like there was a drone, and he said everyone watch this great J perm. And then he did it, and everyone went crazy.
Yeah.
And then there was another part in Worlds 2013 where Mikhail Halchuk had like a terrible solve, and then he just spammed like R and U moves and then reset the timer. Like I don't know, those are the two things that come to mind that are like similar to mine.
Yeah. So I guess kind of going back all the way to the start of everything, it's probably like every single cuber probably gets asked this question a lot, but like what got you into cubing to begin with?
I've only answered this question 80 million times.
Yeah.
So I have an older sister. She's out of college right now, and she, like 10 years ago, she had a friend come over to our house, and then she just happened to bring a cube with her, and she was like, I don't want this anymore, you can have it. And my sister was like, I don't want this, Luke, you can have it. So I took it, and I was like, I want to learn how to solve this. I was very into cubing YouTube before I was into like actually cubing myself. So like Red KB, Me, Myself, and Pi, I was all over that. It was very much my cup of tea before I actually knew how to solve a cube. And when it came to the process of actually learning how to solve one, I forget the tutorial exactly that I used. It might have been Paradox Cubing, which is a throwback, if anyone knows.
He's not even uploading that much
no,
anymore,
he's not.
Yeah.
But I think I used his, and I like didn't fully pay attention to it. So the beginner's method is obviously you solve the first layer. I was able to do that. And then the second layer was where I had trouble because I didn't pay attention to the part where like the edge had to be in a certain position.
Okay.
So I literally just did the alg without the edge being where it was supposed to be, and I got really frustrated and I just kind of gave up. And then it took me something like 6 months for it to finally click, and I had the alg. I just recognized the pattern myself. So I was like, the edge is supposed to be right here. Let me see what happens. Oh, it worked. Let me keep doing that. So after I did that, it just clicked, and then I learned how to solve last layer from Paradox Cubing. And after that, I started timing myself because like I obviously knew speed cubing was a thing before then. And my first time was something like 6 to 8 minutes, and then my second one was like just under 4, I think. And then it just kept going down and down from there.
Yeah. So at what point do you think your speedcubing career kind of like took off? Because I remember the first time I ever knew of you was Monkey League, and I think that's probably like the entry point. 'Cause I think it's the first time I ever heard of Maddie Hiroto and Naba also. And I obviously knew of Luke Garrett from just like local Michigan comps because he would be here like when I remember like Michigan 2018 he was there and competing too. But like I feel like even like all three of you guys, for a lot of people, that's kind of like where people kind of heard about you guys for the first time.
Yeah.
Is that where you kind of thought your cubing career took off, or when do you think it kind of was?
Yeah, I agree. That was when like the boom happened, was like Monkey League and just online competitions and everything. My local boom, when I went from like just a kid to like someone who's actually fast was a 666 single at Summit City in 2016.
Oh, wow.
So at the time that was 81st in the world, and if I think I still have a reconstruction of it up on my channel. It's a terrible solution, but it worked out, and I was able to get the 6. And then my next single after that was 585, and that was like quiet. And then my average after like all of that happened was 709 at Cuyahoga 2019, I think. And then after that 709, I started picking up more and more traction. And then the thing that caused like sort of the beginning of the boom, I guess was what you would call it, was I got a 642 average the last competition before quarantine. So I got like the last fast result that was like a PR before like everything shut down. At the time it was 13th in the world, so with a 642, and then Luke Garrett was 12th in the world with a 640. So after that, Monkey League happened, Cubing at Home happened, and then after that I just kept getting faster and faster, and then I found myself 551 average right before NAC, and then Nats, and then after Nats the I Know It came along. So those were sort of the steps that I think, but Monkey League was obviously the biggest one, so I wouldn't be where I am without streaming.
Yeah. I mean, thing is, what kind of format do you like better? Do you like doing that Monkey League format better, or do you like the WCA format?
I really like both of them because Monkey League seems to be more of like how I solve at home. It's just a bunch of solves in a row, whereas the WCA format is where I can like really shine because I'm very good at being consistent, which is why my average ranking is significantly higher than my single ranking. So I'm able to take these 5 solves that I have officially, take all my focus that I have and put them on those 5 solves. And that's why I can sort of thrive in a WCA format. So I think there's something to be said about both of them. I do like, for results, I like WCA better just because I'm able to have a big impact with 5 solves rather than like lots of ups and downs over the course of like 50 solves in Monkey League.
Yeah. Do you find that you're kind of like an emotional solver where like if you get like a bunch of fast times, you'll get faster, or like if you are like you get like a lockup on one solve and it kind of throws you off, that like kind of ruins your average, or you're just always consistent?
I definitely used to be. Some like ever since the I Know It happened, I was like, I went on sort of a reevaluation thing. I was like, this can't happen again. So I took that as an opportunity to sort of like look at every mistake that I was sort of making, and like whenever I did have something that went wrong, it just kept going downhill. Like at Nats, I remember this very clearly. At Nats, my first solve was a 783, I think.
Yeah.
And it was just like bad. But you can see me on the stream say it's whatever, because like you're gonna get one bad solve in an average. And then after that, I +2 to 635.
Yeah.
And after that, my average was basically dead.
Yeah.
And then 6-9, and then the 10, and then the 5 only happened after I was in like a good mindset. And I told that like to my dad on the way home. I was like, my best solve in finals came after I stopped caring.
Yeah.
So I sort of took that, remembered that, and like have started applying that to all my solves. So like bad solves are gonna happen. It's just how you like recover from the bad solves. Because what you can do is you can take the bad solve, analyze it, what made it so bad, and then learn from it. Be like, okay, how can I avoid a I Know It ZBLL recognition sort of thing? You practice ZBLL for an entire year.
Yeah. So something that's kind of interesting is you talked about how you went back and you like were analyzing your solves, and you're like, oh, I'm watching myself in these videos and seeing like what I looked like in my body language. How much time do you dedicate to cubing, and do all the top solvers kind of do that? Do they go through like the analyzation process, or is that kind of just like a you thing?
That's a very good question. I can't speak to.
Yeah, we're right now currently at Michigan Championships 2024. So
We are.
we're in the middle of some OH groups right now. But yeah.
I can't currently speak for how other people go about it. I know me and Timon have very, very similar practicing styles, and that is on purpose. It's because I ask him for advice basically every day and just annoy him a lot. and then when he gives me the advice, I obviously take it because he's second in the world. And I do know that Luke does a lot of just solves. He's not a big out guy. Other than that, I got a glimpse of what Yihang's practice looks like, but obviously that's going to be something that they're going to try to keep a secret. So we don't have a ton of insight on how Yihang, Ruhang, Guanji, or any of the other Chinese kids, like we don't know what their training schedule looks like.
Wait, how gate kept is that for the most part? Like, is it something where they just like are closed off? Because it seems like you guys are pretty open with like Timon and Luke Garrett. Like, you guys all have like a bunch of like like collaboration together, and they was talking about ideas and stuff. But is it kind of just closed off when it comes to like Yihang and like other?
Not strictly them, but I do know like what his training style looks like, but I don't know like all the bits and pieces of details that it looks like,
Yeah.
I got sort of like a vague explanation for what a session looks like for him. I didn't get like what sort of help he uses or like what sort of resources he uses for that. It was just like I sent an average to Yihang's coach, and he said, I'll do an evaluation for you. And I was like, all right, bet. So I sent him the average, and he said, all right, basically your inspection is bad and so is your look ahead. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll work on that. He didn't give me any, like, resources or, like, techniques. He just is very good at, like, pointing out what is, like, good and bad about solves. But I will say, me and Timon do communicate like practice techniques to each other, but he even gatekeeps like some of his techniques from me. And so he's not very secretive about all his techniques because like he puts it all out in the open for his course.
Yeah.
And he even goes into depth a little bit of it in the cubicle interview that he just recently did.
Yeah.
Or that they just recently uploaded. And it's like everything he says in there is stuff that I like either work on or like am supposed to be working on, but don't.
So, man, how are you kind of like with all these kind of cubing coaches and stuff? Is it going to be the future where people get like cubing coaches for the most part?
That's the idea. I don't know how much of this information I'm supposed to share, but I do know that Timon's course is also going to offer one-on-one coaching with people that just he chooses to hire as a coach. So I know that that's coming very soon. It's not available yet, but it is coming soon.
Dude, that sounds sweet. So do you like? Are you think you're gonna get it? Do you have a coach as of now, or do you?
I don't currently have a coach. If I could like get Timon as a coach though, that would be pretty sick. I'm not sure if he's interested in being like a one-on-one exclusive coach though. I tried to communicate with Yihang's coach, but like the language barrier kind of makes it a little difficult for like specific techniques to get across. So I just have to take what he says and then try to guess what he's getting at and then go with it. But the coaches that they have in China are easily the best in the world.
Okay.
I'm not sure, like, of course, I'm not sure what it looks like, but I do know that whatever they're doing is working.
Yeah. Is for the most part, because I see all these cubers from China and stuff, they all seem to have like these coaches, and it all seems to be kind of like secretive and gatekept. Is that like a similar thing for like? I'd say similar. Do they have anything like similar to that in America or in Europe or in Australia and stuff? Is there any like coaches? Because I don't really even hear of any mainstream coaches besides like maybe Jaden McNeil, or Timon now.
Well, I do have a coaching service, but
like for top solvers is what I'm saying. Like kind of like if you wanted to get a coach.
If I wanted to get a coach, no.
Yeah.
I don't know of anyone that is not in China who would like be willing to be an exclusive coach for me, or not just for me, but like for Luke or Timon or anyone.
Yeah.
That's very much a China thing, and I feel like all of us should like learn from that, because who rules the world when it comes to cubing right now? It's China.
Yeah. So is it something where like, because I'm kind of, do you think they have their own contracts with the cubers where like we're an exclusive coach and stuff, or is it where they pick up multiple clients and they can coach multiple people, or is it just like so unheard of where we don't even know?
I couldn't even guess. Like I have no idea what that looks like.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I guess we're talking about these coaches and stuff and kind of like cubing in general. Is it like how competitive is it on top? Because I think for it's kind of cool. Like I love like I like kind of the local levels of the cubing community. You kind of see like everyone's kind of like all like happy and cheerful and like it's not super competitive. It's more like a hobby and like get together. But like when it comes to being like a little bit more on top and stuff, are you pretty competitive with like I want to win for the most part?
Very.
Yeah.
None of it gets like nasty with each other except
Yeah.
for like the murmurs of like something happening with Ruhang and Yihang's mom or something.
Yeah.
That's the only incident that I've actually heard of, but like we are extremely competitive and we all want to win. Like we all have the same goal and only one of us can get it.
Yeah.
So it's like every local comp that me and Luke Garrett go to, it gets super competitive. Like we both want to win, and like sometimes he wins and sometimes I win, and it's just a battle every single time. But if you take the tension that is there with the local comps, multiply it by 10 because it's a championship, and then multiply the amount of people there
Yeah.
by 8 because 16 finalists, it gets crazy. No one like says a word about. I can't even describe it. No one really says a word about like how much they want to win, but like we can all feel it.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there's no cubing trash talk.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't happen, but yeah, we can tell that it's a very competitive thing and it's a competitive environment.
So, like, what's kind of like your goal then? Do you every single like major championship you want to win? Like every single one you go, it's like NAC this year you want to win.
Yeah, I want to win NAC this year. Worlds, I guess it changes a bit, and like podium would be nice, but like the goal is always to just. This is gonna sound so corny. The goal is always to do my best.
Yeah.
Because, like, the last competition that I had against Luke Garrett, whenever I didn't like beat him, like I would be unbelievably upset. Like I would be upset about it for 2 or 3 days afterwards.
And does he
because,
know
like,
that you hate that too?
I don't
or like
think he does. Like, I don't know if he feels the same way, but I think he might know that like I hate it when he beats me, and I think he might hate it when I beat him as well.
Yeah.
But the last competition that we had was a couple weeks ago, and like I did the best I could. He beat me by like a tenth of a second, I think, like average wise, and I was just like, okay, whatever, I did the best I could.
Yeah.
So mentality wise, it has improved a little bit, but I still always just like the goal is always to win. And if that doesn't happen because of shortcomings on my end, that's something that's a problem that needs to be addressed. But if I do like the best that I possibly could and I still come up short, like there's not much more you can do after that.
Yeah. Something that you're talking about before was like the green room of finals and stuff. Something that I've always wanted to do, and I probably will try to execute this year at NAC, is trying to get the mobile camera in the green room ahead of time. Is that because I think that'd be electric to kind of just see, because I don't think anyone knows what goes on in there. Like it's a very selective thing. There's only been like a few recordings from like maybe like the Max and Felix documentary of people even seeing like what goes on in there. Like what is, you said there's a lot of tension there. Like is there anybody talking to each other? Is there like,
so last year at Nats, we were sitting there doing our thing, like warming up to go up. And then me and Maddie were the last 2 seeds.
Yeah.
And then I believe 3 and 4 was Luke Garrett. And I cannot think of who else it was. But it was Luke Garrett and someone else. And then, so yeah, it's 16 people just sitting in the room. That's when we were kind of talkative with each other.
Yeah.
And then as the amount of people goes down, like the talking goes way down. Like me and Maddie were alone in the green room. We didn't say a word to each other. Like after we, right before we left the green room, he just gave me a thumbs up and then went for a fist bump. Didn't exchange a single word because like that's how high the tension is. Like there's no bitter feelings there, and there wasn't there anyway. But like that's just how high the tension is. Like I don't know. It is a crazy atmosphere for sure. I know there is footage from the NAC 22 green room where we sort of did like a 10-man relay for 3x3, and I think it was like a 108, and our goal was like sub 110 because that's a sub 7 for every person.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the only footage that I know of that's in the actual green room.
Yeah. Going like forward then, so the NAC, do you care about anything other than 3x3?
No, I do not. I'm to do this interview right now. I'm skipping out on Pira, Scube, and 7x7. Earlier today, I skipped out on Clock to do schoolwork.
It's summer. Wait, what?
I'm getting it done so I don't have to sit in a classroom all year next year.
Okay.
So, and then tomorrow, 6x6 is early in the morning. I'm not doing that. I am sleeping. So I can't remember the last time that I picked up a cube to practice, like actively practice, not just doing solves, that wasn't a 3x3. And it's been that way for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of 5x5 because of like nemesis business, I guess. But besides that, it's only been 3x3 ever since North American champs 2 years ago.
Yeah. Something that's I found interesting, Ezra Shear, I was talking to him like, dude, like you're Pyraminx world record holder. Like, has anyone ever contacted you for like a sponsorship or anything? And he's just like, no one's ever like reached out or anything. Like, at least at the time when I was talking to him. And I was like, why do you think that? And he's like, all the money and like all like anybody cares about is 3x3. It's like no one cares about the Pyraminx world record. And to me, like Pyraminx is a decently popular event. It's not something like multi-blind where like there's a lot less of like people participating. Like almost every competition, everyone's kind of participating in Pyraminx if they're going to do 3x3, like 90%.
Most of the time, it's even more popular than 3x3.
Yeah, but it's like still at the end of the day, like it's interesting how like almost all the attention and like all the sponsorship deals and everything revolve around 3x3. Actually, I think I asked him, like, so do you think that, like, Luke Griesser, someone who's, like, not necessarily, like, because he's, like, number 1, Ezra, but, like, Luke, who's a top 10, like, do you think he has, like, more influence and stuff? Because, like, more, like, when it comes to, like, contract negotiation, he's like, oh, by far. Like, it's not even, like, a close matchup. Like, someone who's top 25 in the world has that.
Top player.
Yeah, a top player, right? Yeah. So it's like, that to me is like kind of intriguing. I even see it when we do live streams where 3x3 finals, like it doubles in viewership, like almost instantly. And it's like you have 17 events to cover and then you have 3x3, right? Or, yeah, because there's 18 events in WCA, or is there 17
There's
now?
17.
Yeah, because feet got removed. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at what Cube the Penguin is holding in your logo.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the OG, and like, actually, that's a lie. Pyraminx came before 3x3, but 3x3 was really the one that started it all because it had it won Toy of the Year in 1980, and then it just kept going up from there. In 1982, like, the World Championship was televised, and that was the only way that anyone knew anything that was happening. And then in 2003, after they had that World Championship, they were like, all right, we need to do more. And then US Nats happened, and then Caltech competitions happened, and then it just kept going and going and going. And it's like it's 3x3's fault because I can't remember. I can't even remember. I never knew it. I don't know like how many competitions it was until like something other than 3x3 was introduced.
Yeah.
Do you know? Like,
I have
when that
no
was?
idea. I
No
probably
idea.
should, but I'm assuming, I think things got slowly added. I remember Ski was the last thing to get added, right?
2013.
Yeah. So it's definitely crazy. Do you like the diversity, or do you think just like the main focus of like cubing as a sport should just be 3x3?
No, I love the diversity. Like, I don't think 7x7 should be an event.
Yeah.
But that's a story for another day. I think it should stop at 5x5 because after that it just keeps getting repetitive. It's like, you know what would be really fun? More centers and more edges.
Yeah.
Not really. It is always fun to watch Max throw down on some big cubes, though. I think every event is good except for 6 and 7. Even though I'm not the one actually competing, every single event is fun to watch world-class people compete in. Like, at Nats last year, I remember being unbelievably hyped during Pyraminx finals.
Yeah.
And Pyrrha is probably my least favorite event to actually practice, but it might be my favorite to watch world-class people do. Like, as soon as Michael finished his average, you can hear me celebrate because I knew what he needed to get to win, and he got it. So, on top of that, like, let's stick with sprint events. 2x2 is unbelievably fun to watch, especially the sliding method with Yihang that should be removed. And then Scube is fun because I cannot wrap my mind around the finger tricks that they use. 3x3 is obviously the most fun to watch because I can tell what's going on through their brains, and it's a really cool feeling to be able to do that. 4x4 is fun because it's like not quite a sprint, not quite a long either. And then 5x5, that's pushing my attention span a little bit, but watching Max, Timon, and Nam do 5x5, it's absolutely mind-blowing. What else is there? For the non-visual events, like just hearing about crazy multi-blind results. Like earlier today or yesterday, Ro got 61 out of 66 in an hour. So that's crazy to even think about.
Yeah.
And then FMC is fun when Kalindu's not cheating. And then OH obviously is like awesome. Oh, Megaminx. Megaminx is awesome. I saw POV footage from LML, and his finger tricks for Mega is unbelievable. Like, it's just so much fun to watch. So I think that every event is like that is in the WCA should be there, except for the two with like big cubes.
Yeah.
I do love the diversity that we have.
Yeah. So going forward, do you think so? Because something that's interesting is like, how do you balance that diversity with like just the inherent that like 3x3 is like the most popular by far? Because at the same time, like I see people sometimes where they're like, hey, all the prize money should be like balanced, but it's like, no, 3x3, like that's where all the money is. Like, like cube companies make their most money selling 3x3s, like all of that. Like, do you still think we should like give the same honors in events and stuff when it comes to like, because it's like you can be good at like, you know, raking leaves, but like it's not going to be like, you know, like at a certain point, like it's going to be like, you know, we're not going to give our awards out for everything and like things like that.
So I think that the WCA already does a very good job with balancing, showcasing the diversity with also making 3x3 the main portion of it.
Yeah.
I think that having 3x3 last and be a head-to-head finals, like that is the original spectator event.
Yeah.
Is the head-to-head finals, and that was whoever came up with that is a genius. That was a fantastic idea. Everything else being like a lead up to it, and then at big finals like stationary, so people know like who's where and who needs what. I think Nats last year, just the production of it, like the stream showing like what they needed to like for BPA, like what they needed to win or like stuff like that. I thought that was a great addition. But yeah, I don't think any improvements need to be made. Like I don't know how much prize money is in major competitions because I've just never thought to like look into it. Like for me, it's not about the prize money. It's about like being able to. It's about being able to call yourself the North American champion or like the world champion or something like that.
Yeah, fair enough. The something that's kind of interesting back when you're talking about the Pyraminx finals for Michael Nielsen, when he won that. I remember because he was right by the broadcast booth, and something that's crazy is he was going over the minute of the allotted time.
Yes.
And it's like one of those things where it's kind of crazy when there was 3 delegates right behind me, and I was watching them like time him and stuff, and we see it like go over a minute, and like they're like, we can't say anything because it's judge's discretion by like the rules of the WCA and things like that. And it's like, man, and I remember them saying like, don't mention it on stream. We don't need any controversy. So I'll mention it now. Like this is the first time we're talking about it. Like a year later.
Now that it's over.
A year later, they can't change all the results and stuff. So, but it's like one of those things where it's kind of cool. Like cubing has like these kind of controversial calls. Even when you talk about like Yihang and the sliding method, something that I've thought about is having it where with all the instant replay and everything, do we have a cubing VAR? Like, what's your thoughts on that? If you do a solve, it's like close to a +2, it goes into like after further review,
We're getting so controversial here. I think cubing like instant replay reviews are like, I can't really see an instance besides like timer starting and timer stopping where it would be necessary, but I know that is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I think that what needs to be fixed is like, obviously this is a very new issue.
Yeah.
So the sliding method, for anyone who doesn't know, let me explain. So the way that the stack mat works is like you can go like that. You have to start with your like fingers on the timer. It can't be your palms. But the way that Yihang has like figured out how to start, especially for sprint events, you go like that and then slide your hands across. So like you're technically starting with your palms, but he starts out like that, so it's technically like in the regs, but he doesn't lift his hands up off of the timer until it's his palms that are on it. So I think that needs to be taken away. And the way that does get taken away is with 4-pad. But also, like, we were talking about it, like, off stream earlier, and you were just saying there needs to be some sort of mod where it's 4-pad start, 2-pad stop. And I think that's, like...
Wait, when did I talk about that?
We were talking about it earlier, like, with... I don't know. There's been a lot of stuff happening today, so I don't
think I mentioned that, but
really,
yeah, I don't think
someone told me that. I thought it was you.
Yeah.
But 4-pad start and then 2-pad stop.
Yeah.
If we can find a way to make that happen, I think that would be great.
The one thing I don't like about this, and this is something we're just kind of like WCA as a whole, I think the WCA, because if we go with 4-pad mode, that means you lock yourself into a patent with speedstacks.
Yeah.
For the next 10, like for whatever how long they have that patent for.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that we have to use speedstacks as the company. And what we should really be doing is, now that 2-pads in general are, like, a lot of companies can make it, like, at least in my head, it's like, why doesn't WCA, like, use contracts and stuff to be like, hey, who wants to be the official timer of the WCA, and I'll bid on prices for that. I mean, Yushin's making timers now, GAN's making timers, like all these different timers are getting made. So that to me is more like, then you get more accurate timers and stuff, and people will try to vie or bid to try to become like the official timer WCA, which is why, like, even though that's like a good solution, like in practice, I just feel like you could also blow like a ton of other great opportunities with doing that. It's like my greatest hesitation with going to 4-pad mode. For, I guess, like, or like a modded version for like 2x2.
And like, I do understand that, but I also think that like I think every timer should like be the same. So obviously, if you're like in a competition environment and you have like a bunch of G5s and then there's one G4, being on that G4 is going to be a disadvantage because your fingers are like farther out as opposed to the G5 and you're right here.
Yeah.
So if we have a system where like one country is using like the Halo timer and then this other one is still using speedstacks and then this other one is still using like Yushin timer and then this one company has like G4s.
Yeah.
I think it would be quite the mess.
Yes. Well, that's where I kind of hope that like the WCA would like have a giant deal where it'd be like, you supply all the timers to all these countries. Like, give us like, I don't know how many that would be, like
an unbelievable
like,
amount.
But even 10,000 timers. But to become the official timer of the WCA, where cubers will use it for the next 5 years in a lot contract, I mean, every single cuber is gonna have to buy that timer at that point. So that's extreme bidding. I think, like, extreme leverage if you get that WCA contract. I think they would give all the timers plus money if they did it correctly. I don't know too much about the industry, but that to me is just like my weird ideas.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see how that like plays out.
Yeah, but so do you think then that, like, because there's been a lot of like sus things with like regulations recently. Like, there's been cheating scandals, there's been things like that. Do you think, like, how big of a problem do you think that is for cubing and like cubing trying to grow going forward?
Like, what exactly do you mean? Like, just controversies with regulations?
Yeah, just because, like, I think there's been in recent history a lot of, like, even with like the timer sliding, for example, they realized, like, oh, this stuff is a lot more subjective than we originally thought in the rules, because it's like, hey, a delegate can allow this, but another delegate in a different area wouldn't allow it. Because I'm sure there would be like a delegate in an area that would be like, hey, Yihang, like, you know, those timer slides don't fly when I'm delegating a competition. Whereas like, oh, his delegates over there, they don't see a problem with it. So, like, do you see a problem with the subjectivity? Do you think there's a way to make it more objective, or?
I think that up until recently, like the regulations were like just fine because the pre-sliding issue was Kalindu, and like he didn't even like use the regulations to his advantage. He literally just cheated.
Right.
But I think that regulations are very rarely called into question, and they only are whenever someone is finding loopholes.
Yeah.
So whenever someone does find a loophole, I think that the regulation should be like further specified into like being very specific as to what it entails, to just prevent any loopholes from happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that like the regulations are fine for the most part. Like I don't really have any complaints with them. It's just whenever people start exploiting them that like some sort of action needs to be taken in order to prevent like further exploitation.
Yeah, no, 100%. The big thing for me is like, it's hard because like when I stream competitions, I don't compete anymore because it's like I just need to dedicate my whole time to just like running the stream. And I see like other sports for the most part, they have like dedicated referees and stuff to do like just that dedicated thing. And like obviously with cubing, it's smaller and we're trying to grow it. It's not like we have like soccer or something where like, you know, they have like actual professionals who do it. But like to some extent, it's like, you know, there's like 5-year-old judges who are like making like world records official and stuff. It's like part of me is like that's like a bit like weird how that like is all able to work out. So I mean obviously at like US nationals and stuff you have like the bigger and like you have like staff who are like way more experienced and are like all delegates basically for the most part from their local region.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like part of like the bonification process of making cubing like, you know, more of like an official thing and things like that. And I guess like when people are doing things like full time and stuff, that's something that I'm kind of curious about. Like, do you think you can do cubing full time as like a profession?
Right now, no. With how it's going and how I hope it's going to go later, I really hope so. That would be sick. So the current college plan for me is business school and then law school. So after that, the ultimate goal is to become a sports agent. And then I was talking to Timon about that, and he was like, something that I would be down to do after I finish like my competitive cubing career is to be sort of a cubing agent. And I was like, that is a really good idea. So if there's some way that like I could take like those college degrees and those certifications and everything and somehow become like a cubing agent, like just in charge of a set amount of like people who obviously need to compete and like do endorsements and brand deals and everything, that would be absolutely sick. So either that, because I think the sport is going to keep growing, or I could just keep cubing myself and like be an agent at the same time. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is yet, but I do want to keep cubing in my life, whether it's as a hobby profession or part of my profession.
Yeah. So, I mean, but as of now though, like I don't really know too much about like, I was talking with some like other cubers that like are just sponsored by the Cubicle and stuff. And I was like, oh, do you get like, you know, travel? And they're like only to maybe major championships and things like that. But like I was even shocked because just like basically our contract deal was like I was just going to basically pay for you to come out here to Michigan and stuff and do this kind of thing. And I was shocked that like, oh, like I can just get like literally at the time 5th in the world. I think now you're 6th because of Max Shaw. But anyway, not important. But basically like I'm able to get 5th in the world by literally just being like, here's like $100. Like that's crazy to me. Like well, that I mean obviously there's a little more like you want to like maybe participate in like the stream and things like that. Yeah. But just like I was like, man, like what kind of like these contracts look like? Because I thought like I hear things like, you know, it seems like Timon is doing this full time. And it seems like, you know, Max is doing this full time. Like I know Max is doing this full time. So it's like, all right, how far does like at what gradient does it go to where like people are kind of doing it part time versus full time or like
I don't think I can answer that.
Okay, all right, interesting. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, you're good. Do you know? So, do you know of like any like? Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I know Yihang does it full time. That's what I can say.
You know Yihang does it full time.
I know Yihang
because
does this full time.
It's one of those things where it's interesting because when I first started like doing Happy Feet streams, which I basically lose money on all this, I pull money from my other stuff I do with my production company to try to burn it on cubing because I just love it so much. But like a lot of people were like super against like, you know, me like making like any kind of money at all, or like even contracting out, like even though I'm just getting contracted out by like vendors. So it's super interesting, like how there's like kind of like this like Yi Hang, like we all know he's kind of doing it full time, but like no one really wants to talk about that. Like, obviously, I don't know like what contract stipulations you have, but it's always it intrigues me. So
Yeah, for sure.
Like
I'm sure you could get some whistleblowers who like tell you stuff off the record, but like
okay,
on like an interview especially, I'm probably not.
No,
gonna
that's
talk
for
about
100%. You're all good. So yeah, no, super interesting then. But yeah, that's cool. So yeah, I guess like I don't know how much you can talk about sponsors in general though, but is there like any? So you obviously you're sponsored by GAN cubes and stuff. Why do you choose GAN cubes? Is like just your favorite cube for the most part?
Yeah, for throughout like essentially my entire career, like GAN is what has got me a bunch of PRs. I just perform the best on GAN cubes, and I have continued to perform the best on GAN cubes because like every now and then I'll get bored, and then I'll like pick up a Huameng and just be like, I wonder what this could be like, and it's just awful, and I just can't get like I can't get sub 7 on it like after doing just a couple solves on it. So that's just why I stick with GAN. I just like their 3x3s a lot, and 3x3 is obviously what's important to me.
Yeah. And then I guess my kind of like my final thing that I want to like talk about is what does your family think about like all of cubing and like your cubing career, and like because are you like, oh, it's just like Luke's like ridiculous cubing thing, or is it kind of like, all right, like son, like let's get ready to go to your competition today, like kind of like a travel sport kind of thing?
It's something. It's like in the middle of that.
Yeah.
So travel sports has been a thing in my family, and like will continue to be. Like my sister did dance for her middle school, which you obviously have to travel, and then my brother does travel basketball, and then I think both of my younger brothers are going to do travel football. So I guess this is just my travel sport because everyone in my family has had one. So I guess this is it for me. They're very like my whole family is very supportive. They like my my youngest brother Adam. He has he loves Timon. He tells me like every time I'm going to a competition with him, oh, Timon's my favorite cuber, and I'm just like, all right, thanks. But in like both a family setting and like a friend setting, like everyone knows that I do that. Everyone knows that this is what I do. This is my thing, and everyone's just very, very supportive about it. And some people are even intrigued. Like, my friend added me to a FaceTime a couple days ago, and I had to explain to her friend how to solve a Rubik's Cube. So I took her through step by step and just explained the beginner's method to her. And when it got to last layer, I was like, okay, do you know what fat soon G-perm means? And she was like, no. And I was like, all right, I'll just tell you the moves. So every friend that I have and every family member that I have is obviously very supportive of it. And it's not like, Luke's just doing his thing. They're very supportive, and I'm very thankful that they are.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and being part of this interview. I hope, because there's a lot of stuff where I just don't know what goes on with, like, it's super interesting to hear like competitiveness of like all of your, like, you know, I guess all your friends basically and all the top cubers together. So no, it's super interesting. Thank you so much, dude.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.